Imagine this. If today's world map was placed right in front of you, and someone told you that it hasn't always been this way. Once upon a time, there were only forests, rivers, and small tribes. Then came kings, sultans, and empires. There were powers that could decide the fate of millions with just a stroke of a pen. The countries we know today, the borders we see on school maps, weren't created overnight. Behind each line lies centuries of wars, diplomacy, betrayal, sacrifices, and political decisions. Today, we will explore how countries were formed and divided across the world, and how humans shaped the land into what we now call nations. Before we dive in, if you love learning about history, untold facts, and secrets of the world, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and press the bell icon so you never miss stories that reveal the hidden truths of our past. When humans first walked the earth, there was no concept of nations, borders, or maps. The world was open, infinite, and unnamed. People lived wherever resources were available, hunting and farming, moving from one place to another with no idea of land ownership. But as humans explored, crossed rivers, and discovered new lands, they felt the need to record and understand the territories they saw. This was the beginning of maps. The earliest known world map, created around 2300 BCE by the Babylonians, was not a complete depiction of the earth but only showed the lands they knew and could influence. It reveals an important truth. Maps have always reflected both knowledge and power. Whoever had more knowledge of the land could assert control over it, imagining their world as the whole world. In ancient times, civilizations like Egypt, China, and India considered their own territory the center of the world. China called itself the Middle Kingdom, believing it to be the world's core. Greek philosophers were among the first to suggest that the earth was round. Ptolemy, a Greek scholar, in the 2nd century CE, introduced the concepts of latitude and longitude, bringing precision to maps and linking geography to science. This was the moment when the earth began to be measured and understood. But even then, countries were very different from what we know today. A nation was wherever a ruler's authority extended. Borders were fluid. Today here, tomorrow there. Wars could expand territories, and defeats could shrink them. That's why ancient maps were constantly changing. They reflected the dynamic world around them. During the Islamic Golden Age, map-making advanced significantly. Muslim geographers like Al-Idrisi, in the 12th century, created detailed world maps under the commission of the King of Sicily. His maps showed Europe, Asia, and Africa more accurately than ever before. This demonstrates that maps were not just tools of knowledge but instruments of governance, trade, and control. Later, during the European Renaissance, exploration and navigation revolutionized map-making. Compass and ships allowed Europeans to connect with distant lands, and maps became crucial for trade and empire building. In the 16th century, Gerardus Mercator created his famous map projection, which, although imperfect in scale, revolutionized sea navigation. Europe appeared larger, Africa smaller, showing that maps often reflect the perspective and power of their creators. It was during this era that the division of the world into modern nations began. As Europe advanced in science, navigation, and military technology, it began looking beyond its shores. The continents of Africa, Asia, and the Americas were seen as unclaimed lands on maps, yet in reality, they were filled with civilizations, cultures, and thriving communities. Power, not justice, dictated the division of the world. Maps, which once were tools to understand the earth, became instruments to claim, conquer, and divide it. The 19th century marked the peak of this global division. In 1884, the Berlin Conference brought European powers together to redraw Africa's map without consulting a single African leader. Straight lines were drawn on paper, splitting communities, tribes, and languages across imaginary borders. When the Europeans left, the lines remained, becoming the source of countless conflicts that persist today. Countries like Nigeria, Sudan, and Congo were born not out of culture or history, but from the decisions of men sitting in faraway European cities. Asia faced a similar fate. The British Empire controlled large parts of India, and when independence came in 1947, the land was divided in mere weeks. The Radcliffe Line cut the subcontinent into India and Pakistan. Millions of people suddenly found themselves citizens of a new country overnight. Families were uprooted, millions migrated, and immense bloodshed followed. Here, the map was not just a depiction of territory, it was a decision that reshaped lives, forever linking the abstract lines on paper to the tangible suffering of people on the ground. Meanwhile, The Americas had already faced a profound transformation centuries earlier. European settlers had claimed territories previously inhabited by indigenous peoples. Native nations were displaced, enslaved, or exterminated, and new countries emerged from this violent process. North and South America became mosaics of colonial histories, each country's borders reflecting treaties, wars, and European ambitions rather than natural divisions. The 20th century brought further upheaval. 2 world wars destroyed old empires. The Ottoman Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and others collapsed, leaving behind territories that were divided into new nations. Boundaries were drawn not always with the local populations in mind, but based on political agreements between the victors. Europe itself changed dramatically. Germany, Poland, and the Balkans saw repeated border shifts. After World War II, the world entered a new phase dominated by 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The ideological division created the Cold War, splitting the globe into 2 spheres of influence. Countries were often divided not just by land but by political alignment. Korea split into North and South, Germany was divided by the Berlin Wall, and even remote nations felt the pressure of global geopolitics. Decolonization changed the map of the world further. In Asia and Africa, nations that had been colonies gained independence. Yet the borders left by colonial rulers often remained, even when they split ethnic groups and communities that had lived together for centuries. The arbitrary nature of many of these borders sowed seeds for internal conflict, civil wars, and ongoing disputes. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 created yet another wave of new countries. Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the Baltic states emerged with new national identities. Similarly, Yugoslavia fragmented, giving birth to several nations in the Balkans. These events remind us that borders are never permanent. Political power, social upheaval, and war continuously reshape the world. In the modern era, maps are more precise than ever, thanks to satellites, GPS, and digital mapping. But clarity on paper does not erase the human and historical complexity behind the lines. Conflicts in Kashmir, Palestine, Ukraine, and other regions illustrate that borders are more than lines. They represent contested claims, cultural identities, and historical grievances. Maps today are also political tools. Governments, media, and organizations use them to assert influence or to make a region appear larger, smaller, or more important than it really is. Even with advanced technology, the question of whose land is it is never purely scientific. It is political, cultural, and emotional. Looking back, it is clear that the formation of nations was not a single event but a continuous process. From early human settlements to empires, from colonial ambitions to modern diplomacy, borders were drawn and redrawn countless times. Each line on the map is a story, some of conquest, some of negotiation, some of survival. The world map we see today is not merely geography, it is centuries of human history frozen in color-coded regions.